Hey everybody, this is Nancy from New Travel Escapes. We have spent an amazing 3 weeks traveling around Australia, and we started out our adventure in Sydney. We spent a lot of time searching TripAdvisor, YouTube, and various other internet sites to decide on which hotel we wanted to stay at while visiting this lovely city. After much debate, we decided on the Ovolo Wooloomooloo. No, it's not just because it's fun to say the name. It had a lot on offer that we were looking for. In this video, we're going to tell you what our stay was like and whether or not we would stay here again. The Ovolo Wooloomooloo is not an inexpensive hotel, and it is within the same price ballpark, if you will, as the Four Seasons Sydney, the Shangri-La Sydney, and the Sydney Harbour Marriott, just to name a few. So, it's not cheap. We were looking for something that was unique, that would give us a reflection of Sydney, but also something that wasn't a cookie-cutter hotel. We wanted to have some space because after 23 hours on a plane, we knew we would be spending our first couple of days near our hotel to get acclimated to the country and the time change. We also knew that we wanted to have access to laundry, whether paid or included didn't matter, but when you're traveling the way that we did, you want to pack as minimally and as efficiently as possible, so being able to refresh our suitcase contents before we moved on to the next city was going to be helpful. We also wanted a quality restaurant on site as well as having good restaurants nearby that are walkable. Last but certainly not least on our list is location. We wanted a hotel that was walkable to all of the sites that we were interested in seeing while visiting the city. So we wanted to be close to Sydney Harbour and the Opera House, of course, the Botanic Gardens, Circular Quay, Darling Harbour, and we also wanted to have easy access to the ferries. We concluded that the Ovolo Wooloomooloo had what we were looking for, plus a couple of quirky extras that make this a very unique hotel. Let's start off with this uniqueness. The Ovolo definitely has its own individual personality. In my mind, I characterize it as funky hipster. You will either love the decor or hate it, but I think everyone can agree that it is definitely distinctive. You can't describe this hotel as cookie cutter. The Ovolo sits near the water on a finger wharf beside the Botanic Gardens, and it is one of the oldest timber wharfs in the world. The wharf has been transformed from a cargo dock into a collection of restaurants and bars. On one side sits a marina with pleasure craft, and on the other side of the wharf sit some of the Australian military's naval ships. South of the hotel is the famous nightlife area of King's Cross, and it is about a 15-minute walk to everywhere we wanted to go. The Ovolo checked off the boxes of non-cookie cutter, restaurants nearby, and a prime location. Because it sits on the water beside the Botanic Gardens, it is also quiet, so if we needed to nap to fight off some of our jet lag, it was not a problem. The Ovolo was originally built in 1915 as a wool factory, and this is apparent when you walk in the doors. Many of the original features remain, like exposed beams, wood floors, and hay bale chutes. The center of the building is kind of an open space with the hotel's 100 rooms running down either side of the 5-story high building. There is a vegan-vegetarian restaurant, Alibi, just up the stairs from the check-in, and this is where our first hiccup showed up. When we arrived, Alibi was in the middle of a total renovation. Unfortunately, no one told us about this in advance, even though we had our room booked for months before we arrived. They had plenty of time to let us know that construction would be going on all day in the center of the hotel. Yes, I know everything needs to have renovation time and again, but a heads up would have been respectful considering we had flown 23 hours to find ourselves checking into what felt like and sounded like a construction site. On a positive note, they finished the renovations on the day we left, and it did look really nice. The hipster theme continues throughout the hotel as they have a complimentary candy station, as well as some retro video games like Donkey Kong and Pac-Man. And I see this, and no matter how old I get, I hear my mother's voice in my head. This is gonna rot my teeth and my brain. You're right, Mom. You're totally right. The lobby is quirky and fun, and there are bikes for rent if you need them to get around. The theme continues as they add a touch of retro rock and roll into the hotel. They have 2 suites dedicated to Australian rock legends, AC/DC and INXS. The most expensive and swanky rooms, of course. We chose to stay in a loft suite. It is in the upper middle range of their suite offerings. The Ovolo Loft Suite is a split-level suite, and it is a very long and narrow room. There is a powder room, an extended sofa that will probably hold 4 people, and a TV mounted on the wall. There is a bench for additional seating under the window. The main level also had a minibar area and a small table for 2. The minibar is included with your nightly rate. It includes 1 serving of white wine, a serving of red wine, 1 beer, a sparkling water, 2 Cokes, and some still water. There was a kettle for tea and an espresso machine for coffee, and housekeeping refills this daily. There is a small bag of snacks like a child's birthday party goodie bag that was on the table when we arrived. It was never refilled, it was a one and done welcome type thing. It was not really to our taste, so we left it, but it was kind of fun and funky. It was a really nice perk to have the minibar included. I find hotels that have a paid minibar feel a little bit cheap to me. It makes me feel like I paid good money to stay for the night and then they want to charge me $9 for a Coke. I know it's really not a big deal at all and it's a me issue for sure and no one else's problem, but needless to say the fact that the Ovolo doesn't nickel and dime you over the minibar felt delightful. If you book directly with the resort, you will also get 2 cocktails at happy hour per day in the bar, as well as an included vegetarian breakfast at Alibi. When we did the math, and if you've watched any of my videos, you know I do a lot of budgeting before I book something, the included cocktails and breakfast did not offset the price increase when booking direct. So we booked it through a travel booking site and kept the difference to buy our cocktails and breakfast while we were out exploring the city. Back to the loft suite. The upstairs of the loft has a king-size bed as well as a second television on the wall. The upstairs bathroom is pretty tiny and 2 people were not fitting in there at once comfortably. There was very little storage in the room, but they did have bathrobes and slippers to use during your stay. The bath products were nice and I really appreciated that they are environmentally conscious and have refillable large bottles rather than the disposable individual bottles. The loft also has skylights, but they do not have blinds on them, so you may love or hate this depending on your personality. The bed was very comfortable and the bedding and pillows were clean and cozy. They also offered a pillow menu if you weren't happy with the ones on the bed. We personally wouldn't pick the loft suite again. The layout was a bit too cramped for our liking, but some people may enjoy the funkiness of this room style. That's really just up to personal taste. The Ovolo Wooloomooloo also has a pool and gym area for guests as well as included laundry facilities where you can go and wash your clothing. The pool was in a bizarre location. To walk to it, you're walking out of the hotel and is into the residential area because guests and residents share these facilities. The pool area itself was very nice. There is a great jacuzzi hot tub and a lovely outdoor sitting area that feels very private. The pool was nice and clean and the hot tub was a pleasant treat. There are plenty of towels to use in the pool area as well. Now, unfortunately, the laundry room was a bit of a disaster. There are 6 machines in total, only 2 washers that actually worked. The other washers were out of order, and no dryers were working at all. The laundry room was dirty and it smelled like a sewer in there. We washed our clothes and hung them all over our room to dry because we didn't find out that the dryers were all out of order until another guest told us not to bother with it as his clothes had been in the dryer for an hour already and they were still wet. Not a good impression of the hotel the night before we were leaving. I had read good things about the staff at the Ovolo on TripAdvisor, but unfortunately this just wasn't our experience. Don't get me wrong, the staff was pleasant, friendly, and they did their job, but they missed the mark for service in comparison to the other hotels we stayed at while in Australia. For example, when booking as an Expedia Gold member, it includes a bottle of wine in your room. At check-in, we mentioned this, and they said, "Of course, it's here in our booking notes. We will leave it in your room." Great, we thought, but it didn't arrive. Not a big deal. We kindly reminded them of this each day of our 5-night stay as we were heading out to explore the city, and each day it never showed up. Also, when we initially checked in, the heater was broken in our room. Their solution was to bring us an extra blanket, and said that they would try to get to fixing it the next day. If they couldn't, they would be bringing in a space heater, and we were to remind them at the check-in desk in the morning that it needed fixing. There was no offer to move us to a room with a working heater. We managed just fine, of course, and we assumed that these were just little service issues that must be normal for Australia. They are certainly not a culture of people that sweats the small stuff, which I appreciate. But after 3 weeks, 5 cities, and many hotel rooms later, we realized that this is not normal for Australian service at all. TripAdvisor names the Ovolo Wooloomooloo as the #1 hotel in Australia in its 2019 Traveller's Choice Awards, which lent a lot of weight into why we chose it for our stay in Sydney. But for us, it just did not live up to that rating. It is a cool and funky place to stay for sure. It is quirky and themed accordingly. The Ovolo's location is great. You can walk to Sydney Harbour and the Opera House through the Botanic Gardens in about 15 minutes, and the views and restaurants on the wharf are gorgeous. But we found the hotel dirty, and not just because of the construction. The sofa in our room was stained and a bit threadbare, the carpet on the stairs was worn, the elevator floor was stained, the bathroom needed some TLC, and the laundry room was a complete joke. I'm glad that we stayed at the Ovolo Wooloomooloo to try it out. The refurbishment of the building was excellent and really unique. There are thoughtful touches and a quirky vibe throughout the hotel, and I really do love the hotel design and layout. But after our experience and for the money we paid, it's a one and done for us. After our adventures in Sydney, we are off to Hamilton Island in the Whitsunday Islands on the Great Barrier Reef. You have to see this place to believe it. That is coming up soon. And we are back to Mexico to see what is happening at all of our favorite all-inclusive resorts, so please subscribe and stay tuned for those videos. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and we'll see you again really soon. Bye!